third one who's been delayed. But I'd like to start by introducing Dr. Chong-Uk Kim from the Department of Economics, who will be talking about kind of a macroeconomic perspective. And then Marty Bennett, who's at the Santa Rosa Junior College, who will be looking more on a microeconomic level. And then our third speaker will be focusing particularly on the Graton Day Labor Center as an example of a micro-level aspect, economic aspect. So on that note, I'll let you get started. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I usually with the mic, sitting in top. So if you guys don't mind, can I stand up here? It's okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. So, this is a paper, I'm going to introduce today, and this is core paper with Professor Kevin Henningsen at Gonzaga University. He's a labor economist, and I'm an international and macroeconomist. So we are working together to see what is the long-run impact on immigrants on U.S. local labor market. Okay? So, motivation. Well, as you guys know, there's a massive influx of immigrants to the United States. Well, since this is 2008 data. 2008, there are 38 million foreign born living in the United States. So what's total population in the United States? Does anyone know it? What is total population in the United States? 33? No? 330 million, right? 330 million. So it means that, what, like 11%? 12% of US total population is actually foreign born. And then, this is from 2000 to 2008. So for 7 years, how many people come to the United States? Legally, 7 million people. That's actually a pretty big number, right? So it is natural to ask a question, okay? So what is the impact of this immigration to the United States, especially labor perspective? So, for example, okay, people come to the United States. What's going to happen to my job, right? So employment. So unemployment rate. What about real wages? So this topic is actually the major three topics in among labor economists. And then there are many papers actually studied about this topic previously. For example, so David Carr in Berkeley and Boas is a really famous economist in Harvard. And these guys have written lots of papers about these topics. But mostly, these guys looking for the cross-sectional data. It means that just one time period, and then reverse shock. Okay, people are coming to foreign country. And what's going to happen today? Well, this year, right there. Okay? So there are many papers, written by these guys, and then the integral findings of these guys are totally independent. It means that there are no consistency. Generally speaking, according to David Carr, it has found that immigrants has usually no impact on local real wage or really tiny impacts on our real wage. For example, decreased by 0.2%. Right? Another example, like the Boas, where this one, the Boas has written total 17 papers about this issue. And then consistently, he has found that negative impact on immigrants on local wage. For example, he said that at least 3 to 4% real wage decrease because of immigrants. But once again, this guy's finding totally depends on case by case. Some cases, no impact. Some cases, negative. Some cases, even they found positive impact on our real local wage. So once again, you gotta remember this. Well, these guys' papers all published in top economic journals. So even though they're all published papers, their findings are all totally dependent. Okay? So it means that so far there are no solid conclusions yet. Still, huge debate on this topic. So another example here, before that, was, as I mentioned, most of the papers so far they're looking for short-term impacts, which means that given time period, what's going to happen? But my idea is that here, what about long-term impacts? The reason why I started this paper is that when I read the other people's paper, I got one big question. Hey, once people come to the United States, they want to stay here a pretty long time, right? Not just 1 and 2 years, long time, sometimes common. Therefore, if people, come to the United States from outside the United States, well, they should have not just temporary impacts, but also permanent impact in the United States, especially the labor market. So that's the main points for this paper. So I have found that the couple of examples between short-run and long-run impacts. So I want to tell you, I want to tell you the first one, written by Boas, 1995. This is a very typical paper. You can see the impacts of immigration on short-run labor market. So based on his, the arguments, Boas says labor demand curve always a downward sloping, right? A downward sloping means that higher wage, the higher wage, the lower demand, low wage, higher demand, right? Therefore, given downward sloping labor demand curve, if labor supply goes up, obviously they will be unemployed. Therefore, real wage will go down in the future. That's what he said basically. So even his paper, the 1995 paper, title is simply labor demand curve has downward sloping. That's the title of his paper. Given downward sloping demand curve, if labor supply curve shifts to the right, obviously real wage goes down, right? So based on this theory, he empirically tested the immigrants in the state of Florida, and he found that 4% decrease in real wage in Native American people. I mean, Native American means not Indians, the people who used to live in the United States. Okay? And the next one, the 2007 large paper. Personally, I really like this paper very much because this paper, as long as I know, this is the very first paper who look at the long-run effects on immigrants in the local labor market. So this paper published in JPE, one of the best journals in the field of economics. And according to him, he said that immigrants is not just labor supply. They also demand lots of domestic goods and services. For example, I'm come to say United States. Well, obviously I supply my labor, but at the same time, I demand lots of goods, services from you guys too. Right? It means that I'm not just a supplier of labor. I also require my goods or services. It means that the firm in the United States, they have to produce more to satisfy my demand. Therefore, I'm a demander. Immigrants increase demand. Therefore, firm, they have to produce more goods. So they need more laborers. They're going to hire more workers. It means that not only supply curve, demand curve also shift to the right in the long run. Therefore, what happens? Well, initially, supply curve shift, right? So real wage goes down in the short term. And afterwards, demand curve shift to the right. So if demand curve shifts more than the supply curve, real wage actually increase. If less than, real wage decrease. So according to his arguments, the long-run real wage totally depends on how much demand I create in this country. That's going to decide future real wage. Then, even he found that domestic price also heavily depends on number of immigrants. For example, it's from his paper. The unskilled immigrants usually consume pretty cheap products. Okay? So it means that domestically we have to produce more cheap products. So because of that, well, the CPI is surprising me. I actually, I have to check that the empirical result by myself. But based on his finding, he said CPI decreased by 0.5%. That's a pretty big number, 0.5%, because of immigrants. It means that immigrants simply not just affect your short-run local, the unemployment or the wages. It has a huge impact on overall U.S. economy, price and domestic demand, right? Also labor supply. Okay? So based on this idea, okay, I set up the vector autoregressive model, so which is VAR. So if you guys have taken econometrics class, you might have some idea what is it. But basically, this is an empirical technique to see the interactions between three endogenous variables. Endogenous variables means these guys interact each other. For example, people come to the United States, immigrants. Obviously, this guy is going to affect what? Local employment and local wage, right? But at the same time, just think about it. If in the United States, we pay really high wage, then what's going to happen? We're going to what? Attract more people from foreign country, right? So these guys are not just one-way direction. Here's what? Here's what? Feedback among these three variables. So all three variables are endogenous variable. So I choose VAR because this is the best way to look at endogenous variables together. And then I choose the different data sets. Number one, national level, United States, of course. Number two, states. I choose 5 big U.S. states. So California, Illinois, and Texas, Florida, and New York. Okay? So I'm going to show you the picture later. Okay? The impact of immigrants on local real wage and unemployment. First, United States, overall. Next, 5 main states in the United States. Okay? All right. So since we have students here, I'm going to just tell you what is main debate on immigrants on real wage nowadays. The question is really simple. The question: are they substitutes? Are they complements? That's the question we want to answer. Substitutes means they're going to take your job out of you. They're going to replace your job. That's substitute. It means that it's going to hurt your wage or your the employment status. If they are complements, it means that they're going to work with you together and then improve your wage. That's complements. So are they substitutes? Are they complements? That is the main question we want to answer through many the previous researches. Once again, the answers case by case. Okay? So data. Well, I got data. First, the immigrants data from the Homeland Security, and then unemployment rates and real wage from Bureau of Labor Statistics, and state level data from Bureau of Economic Analysis. So this all the open the source, so you guys can get it without any problem. Okay? Now mean values. This is mean value for my data set. So first thing here is national, U.S. average. So on average, between what is the data time span? National, 64 to 2004, right? So 64 to 2004. What is average? 662,000 people come to the United States annually. This average. That's a big number, right? California, 229,000 every year. Texas, 65,000. New York, 117,000, like that. The second one here, numbers representing unemployment rate. So national average, 64 to 2004, 6.9%. That's the unemployment rate. California, 7 point. Texas, 6.1, etc. And this is the real wage, the last one. The first national, this real wage means the hourly wage. How much money you guys make per hour. And then state, this is annual and real wage. So this number is actually based on 1984 constant number. So this is a real wage. For example, who's paid the highest? New York, 12,000. Okay? And then California, 11. And Illinois also 11. So Illinois is a little bit higher than California, right? So once again, this is not current dollar. This is 1984 dollar, right? So 1984 and 2011, what is the price change? So approximately, maybe I can say, if you guys just double up this number, and then you can end up maybe current dollars value. Okay? So because time, then just move to. Let me just skip this part. This is an empirical part, talking about some of the specifications. So this is my empirical model. And I use the vector error correction model, so autoregressive model. So this guy's all vector, immigrants, unemployment rates, and this is real rates. So this is the first picture. Okay? So we have 3 variables, therefore 3 by 3, so 9 response functions we have here. So I want you guys to focus on these 2 guys. Okay? This is the response to the unemployment to immigrants. It means that there are some positive number immigrants come to the United States. So what's going to happen? Unemployment, nationally. But the blue one, as you guys see, increased a little bit, right? Okay, this is year 2. So second year, unemployment goes up, right? And then disappears, right? But once again, the red dot here, this guy's representing the confidence level. Since these guys contain 1, which is 0 here, it means that statistically not significant. So simply, this picture, unemployment, this is real wage, but these blue dots, these guys cover 0, right? So statistically, there's no evidence. Okay, immigrants actually make any difference in unemployment rate or real wage in the United States. Okay? And next one, California, same story. But here, second year, well, it looks like unemployment goes up, right? But it's hard to say, but statistically, well, it's not significant, but disappears quickly. Same thing here. Real wage, negative response, shown, but statistically, not significant. It means that mean value is not different from 0. Therefore, I don't see any evidence immigrants actually change unemployment rates or real wage in California. Okay. Now, Texas, well, same thing. So I'm going to skip it. But New York is only one exception. Instead of New York, now this is significant. It means that immigrants come to the states of New York. What happens? First 2 years, unemployment rate goes up. And then disappears. Real wage, negative, right? Immigrants come to New York State. Real wage goes down until second year and then disappears. It means that, but in case of New York State, there's a short-term impact, right? As we expect, more people come, like what Boaz says, more people come, unemployment goes up, real wage goes down, the short-term, but quickly disappear the long-term state. Okay? And then, well, Florida, same thing, statistically not significant. And Illinois, same story. But the size is right. Employment, unemployment goes up, real wage goes down. All 5 states says exactly the same thing. Sure enough, well, it looks like there's some impact. Our unemployment goes up, real wage goes down. But after 2 years, all disappears. So, conclusion. Well, based on this the research, I found that in national level, there's no effects, and statistically not significant. What about the short run? State level? Yes, I found some evidence, like New York, right? But short run, well, if immigrants come to the United States, well, real wage goes down and unemployment rate goes up. After 2 years, disappears. The long run, well, I don't see any impact on labor market from immigrants into the United States. Okay, so all right, so that's all I have today, and then I'm going to take your questions after the paper's presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak on this panel. I handed out some handouts. This is my PowerPoint. It will not fail, all right? But I need you to work with me. And as I call out the page numbers, all you need to do is turn the page. I didn't bring enough of them, so perhaps you can locate yourself near someone that has one of these. My name is Marty Bennett. I teach history at Santa Rosa Junior College. I'm also co-chair of the Living Wage Coalition of Sonoma County. And I'm also a research and policy analyst with Unite Here, Local 2850, representing hotel workers in the East Bay and the North Bay. I'm going to look at micro. And what I want to examine is particularly the new immigrant population and labor markets. And I specifically want to talk about Unite Here, which indeed is the union that represents predominantly low-wage immigrants in the hotel and hospitality market. I also want to suggest that the American labor movement is in dire straits. Union density in the private sector is about 7%. That's the lowest it has been in over a century. If labor is to make a comeback, it must organize, and it must organize new immigrants and low-wage workers. I think there's a lot to be learned from the example of Unite Here. So first, what is Unite Here? It is a union that represents approximately 350,000 hotel, gaming, food service, restaurant, and airport workers. 100,000 of these workers are in what we call full-service hotels in major metropolitan areas in the United States and Canada. This represents 1 in 5 hotel workers in full-service hotels and less than 1 in 10 hotel workers in the hospitality industry nationwide. 1/4 of union hotel workers are housekeepers and predominantly, overwhelmingly, immigrant women. 30% of hotel workers nationally are foreign-born. In any number of cities, this percentage is much higher. As in San Francisco, where 48% are foreign-born. In San Francisco, Unite Here Local 2. Its membership is 47% are Asian Pacific Islanders, 34% are Latino, 5% are African American, and 16% are white. In California, about 26% of leisure, restaurant, and hospitality workers were undocumented in 2000. This has fallen somewhat since that time. The difference, and if you look on page 1 there, between wages, benefits, and working conditions between union and non-union is substantial. The wage differential is a little bit less than the overall differential, but it's about $175 an hour more that union hotel workers make than non-union hotel workers. The benefits are considerable in the union sector and will be consistent with that chart. Benefits such as medical and retirement are almost non-existent in many hotels that are non-union. Union hotel workers have a grievance procedure, seniority rights, and substantially more job security than non-union workers. Page 3 there you see that the hospitality industry is indeed a global industry. It is dominated by about 4 major chains, and each one of those chains, Marriott, Hilton, Starwood, and Hyatt, average about, in 2005, their profits were about $1 billion. That is after-tax profits. Now, what presence does the union have in the North Bay? If you turn to page 5, there's only 1 union hotel in the North Bay, and that is the Petaluma Sheraton. And how did that that American workers have been stripped of the right to organize. The National Labor Relations Board, in the private sector, let me emphasize, in the private sector, that right has been taken away. The National Labor Relations Board is not enforced in the private sector, and 20,000 workers are illegally fired or discharged or disciplined each year for supporting union organizing campaigns. Low-wage workers, particularly immigrant workers, and certainly undocumented workers, are particularly vulnerable to employer threats or intimidation during the National Labor Relations Board electoral process. And second, that the so-called card check neutrality agreement is essential here when we're talking about organizing in the low-wage sector. Because if the city provides public money to a private developer, it is in the proprietary interest that there be no work stoppages or disruptions of that firm. And indeed, the Sheraton got about $3 million in redevelopment money and tax abatements. Hence, in the development agreement that the City Council approves, you can put mandates for living wage and for card check. And that's exactly what happened in Petaluma. Now, we can say that in the hospitality industry, Unite Here has been relatively successful because of its ability to be both a labor organization and an immigrant rights organization. And there's only a few unions that are systematically organizing in the American labor movement today. That's one of our problems. John Wilhelm was the chief strategist and lead organizer for a 6-year campaign to organize a major hotel and casino in Las Vegas in 1991. The Frontier Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. That plan, that took 6 years to organize that hotel. But it broke the dam, and every other major hotel on the Las Vegas Strip agreed to card check neutrality and subsequently was organized. Culinary Local 226 in Las Vegas has become the most ethnically diverse and powerful union in Nevada. John Wilhelm was elected president in 1998 of the International Unite Here, and he increased his commitment to organizing, apportioning 50% of the union's budget to organizing, which is simply unprecedented in the American labor movement, and particularly organizing low-wage workers and immigrants. Now, why does the union combine, and must it combine, labor rights and immigrant rights? One is obviously the composition of the workforce that is overwhelmingly new immigrants and low-wage workers, and particularly women. Second, many of the leaders of the union, like John Wilhelm, went through the civil rights movement, the women's movement in the 1960s, or others were new immigrants themselves in the 70s and 80s and became involved in the immigrants' rights movement. As a consequence, the union has played a leading role within both the labor movement and national politics in the issue of immigrant rights. The premise of Unite Here is we organize all workers regardless of their immigration status, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. And I'm just going to abbreviate here, but all of the major national immigrant rights campaigns of the last 10 years, and particularly the 2006 upsurge of immigrant rights marches, demanding comprehensive immigration reform, the union was front and center in every major city. How has the leadership and the structure of the union changed to incorporate new immigrants? One, at both the international and 2, the leadership of the international and local reflects the diversity of the membership. Many, if not most, leaders are bilingual, if not trilingual. 3, all union meetings are translated into multiple languages. 4, 70% of the hired staff are drawn from the rank and file, and the majority are immigrants, people of color, and women. And 5, and perhaps most importantly, there is an intense focus on developing the leadership of rank and file workers, their leadership skills, and developing a culture internally within the union which is extremely democratic and all are able to participate. Now, why has the union been so successful? First, it is these so-called card check neutrality elections, and particularly when public money is involved, and particularly when there are a sympathetic city council or county board of supervisors that will mandate these labor provisions in a development agreement. Second, living wage law. And if you turn to page 13, you'll see all the card check agreements in California. Page 15, you see living wage law that also mandate labor peace or neutrality for city contractors or for firms receiving economic development assistance. And many union hotels in this area, like the Berkeley Radisson, have been organized in that way. And 5, and in conclusion, Unite Here, and you go to page 9, has spent a great deal of time and money organizing nonprofit, labor-based organizations that in the community, they advocate for community benefits agreements and living wage ordinances. They will support comprehensive bottom-up organizing campaigns by hotel workers. And they put forward a social vision for more equitable, for more sustainable economic development, and for an inclusive, and I cannot emphasize, an inclusive democratic society that is going to lead to broadly shared prosperity. Can it happen here? My last handout there is Las Vegas as a workers' paradise. And indeed, there is more upward mobility for average working people in Las Vegas because of the union than in any other part of the country. The Graton Ranch at Graton has provided a card check neutrality for that casino. There will be 1,000 workers that will join Unite Here once that casino is built. Thank you very much.
This is Christina Zapata from the Graton Day Labor Center.
Good afternoon, my name is Christina Zapata. I wanted to thank the Department of Latino Studies for inviting the Graton Day Labor Center to be a part of this panel today. These excellent colleagues. Before I get in to talk about day laborers and the impacts of the immigrant workers that I know in the economy, I wanted to make some comments about kind of what you were saying, Mr. Bennett. And I'm a former labor organizer with Service Employees International Union, SCIU, and it's definitely true that we had the most organizing immigrant workers. They were the ones that felt like, you know, we had not to pit, you know, non-immigrant, not to create like that polarization, but they were really, I think they felt like they had less to lose, and you know, these are our rights that we're fighting for. And so they were the ones that were always coming to the meetings, always the ones willing to go to marches, stay through and go to the board of supervisors, city council meetings, and be at the forefront of all of these struggles. And not just Latino immigrants either. We have huge contingents of immigrants from China, Mandarin-speaking folks, Farsi-speaking folks from Afghanistan. So this idea that immigrants are really organized to the day laborers here in our county. In about 2003, they formed to organize their hiring process. And so more and more day laborers are coming to the town of Graton because, like many Californians, they don't enjoy a relationship with a single employer. So they have to come to the corner and make agreements with various employers. In that time frame, the wage that they set for each other, the workers, collectively, they set the wage of $12 an hour. So that's the minimum, and then it goes on up from there. And so the advantage of participating in this democratic hiring process is that they're going to have a higher wage. Just yesterday, a worker came who stands on the street and doesn't use the center, and he came because he wasn't paid. And so we don't see that at the center. You know, if there's a bad check, you know, we get on it right away. We do a wage claim. We contact the Labor Commission's office here locally. So employers know that. And so the benefit for the workers has been really, really positive and really real and really seen in their daily lives. So that's $12 an hour, and then up for their wages. Some workers will go look at a job and go analyze the job if it's like tiling a bathroom, more skilled labor, and they'll give a price for the job and not an hourly wage. The women's, some women that were coming to the corner also to look for work were not having as much success going out. A lot of employers didn't want to take women necessarily. And so in 2007, to address the diverse employment needs of women, they organized their own collective, their own hiring process, which is primarily going out to work in house cleaning, food preparation, and child care. And just last year, in 2010, they raised their rates after consulting with other immigrant workers in the Bay Area and seeing what the industry standards are. They raised it to $20 an hour. And a lot of employers are hiring because they know now they're skilled, they're trained. In our county, especially where we are in West Sonoma County, there's a large emphasis on care for the environment, using green products. And the women are very invested in learning how to take care of the environment and also working with the employers to do that green cleaning. And so they go through trainings, occupational health and safety trainings. We blow up the back of Tilex, little spray cans and other green Bon Ami, 7th generation, and etc. So that they know how to identify the chemicals and the effects on their bodies and what to avoid and what to use, what product for, what surface, as an example. So all of this training that they have gone through, they felt that it was time to increase the wages, and it's been really successful. So now their impact, they're great capitalists, kind of unfortunately, but they're sometimes better capitalists, I think, than a lot of U.S. foreign folks. They save a lot and they also spend a lot. We see this a lot with vehicles. They all want to have a vehicle. They see that they purchase vehicles. They have better opportunities to be employed. Phone cards and cell phones. Cell phones are their lifelines. The most important priorities they have are to pay for their cell phones and their rent. And so this keeps them in contact. So Metro PCS, Verizon, Sprint, all of these folks are hugely benefiting from their cell phone contracts with immigrant workers. Other impacts, huge spenders, huge consumers, and street vendors, and also really, really creative. So like the first presenter was saying, I'm sorry, Professor Kim was saying that once they're here, they do demand services as well, and that's definitely true. They demand services from us, but also from each other. So there's a few workers that make food and sell food on the side. They sell jewelry. They make various crafts, and they sell them at farmers markets. We have one gentleman that's makes these special trees with copper wire and glass, and we have those on our website and our Facebook page. And that's just another way to make extra money, but they also sell and buy and do a There was some criticism from some rank and file union members, not a lot in this county. It's been seen more in other parts of the country, about this idea that day laborers are driving down wages and that they're taking away jobs. So that was a big argument. It's a backlash that day laborers used to see. We don't see it as much anymore. I hear about it much anymore. But it's definitely not the case for us in West County and the day laborers here, because they have a democratic hiring process. And they set their wages for $18, $20 an hour, again, for very specialized jobs. So they're a few, even the $12 general rate is a few dollars above the minimum wage. So we see them as keeping up the level for other workers in the area. $12 an hour is not the best. You know, the living wage in this county is 17.
At least 15.
Yeah, at least 15, and so they're definitely not hurting or driving down the wages here in this region. Workers, when they come to the center, I personally really admire them. The folks that come are extremely diverse. Many of them are from Mexico, but even within the state that they're from, the majority from Oaxaca, they're very, very diverse. In any day, about 5 languages may be represented at the center. You may be more familiar with Mixteco or Zapoteco from your readings or just your general awareness, but some folks speak Huave and Chatino, and they come into the center and they're mixing with folks from all over not just Mexico, but other parts of Central America. Of course, not everybody's an immigrant that comes to the day labor center, and women. And they're forced to participate. It's expected that they're going to run the center. It's expected that they're going to make these decisions and rules about the operations and functions and the daily work of the center. And so they're contributing in that way, just touching on the social piece that you were talking about and creating a social vision. We definitely see that as well. Really big civic engagement. Yesterday we took a team to provide testimony to our assembly member, and the women gave spot on testimonies. They just couldn't have been better to support AB 899, the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights. And our assembly member said, hell yes. So we left feeling pretty victorious that our local representative supports workers' rights. And so the women took time off and rearranged their schedules to do that. And I think a lot of workers are willing to do that. A lot of workers are willing to be at the forefront and to be the spokespeople for their struggles. I just like to close with just the deep admiration that I have for them.
Thank you, fellow speakers. We have some time for questions, and since there are so many great students here, I'd like to start with any questions specifically from students. Did you get your questions answered? Okay.
No, I was just waiting.
Oh, just waiting. Yes.
Okay. I'm a student here at SSU, and my question is really directed towards the two speakers on this side of the panel. All these students here are sitting in classrooms every day expecting to earn a premium because of their education. So when we talk about guaranteed living wages for people who are mostly in low-skilled jobs, that kind of seems to me like these people that this is trying to persuade us that if we were to enter into low-skilled jobs, we would have a guaranteed living wage instead of sitting here trying to earn the premium that we're getting. So my question here is, why is it that the living wage is a right, not something that you earn through hard work and being in class like everyone here is today?
So you want to know why living wage isn't a right?
why is the living wage a right versus something that you earn? Because all of us are here expecting to earn a wage. That, or else we probably wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
We would like to be at a beach or whatever, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I mean, so when we talk about the right to a living wage, especially a subsidized right to a living wage, which I will point out happens because if public money is expected to be used to coerce businesses to agree to terms that give their employees the living wage, then that seems to me like public money, which it's hard to realize for us because we all pay taxes in small bits, but then that money in big bit that the government administers, that then is used to coerce businesses like this hotel into establishing a living wage. So that seems to me like the money that we earn because we're here to earn our livelihoods, then goes to force a business to guarantee that low-skilled workers are going to receive this living wage that you guys are working to establish. So why should we sit here in this class and earn our wage when we could be guaranteed it if we join the union?
Yeah. Can I start? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I totally agree with you. I think you should earn your premium wage because you're studying. I think if you're not going to earn your premium wage, that's up to us, and that's up to you guys as students. You really have to organize. I think what Mr. Bennett was saying, and what I've seen in my experience, is that workers are willing to organize. They're willing to go to the Capitol. They're willing to talk to the representatives. They're willing to go to the marches, make the phone calls, do the precinct walking, do everything it takes to push the politicians to get off their butts and work for you. That's what you need to do.
But in economics, that's what we call rent seeking. Because when you use your resources for a non-productive activity like lobbying a politician instead of producing a good, then you're using your efforts, your time, your energy, your water, all the stuff that you're using to live, to coerce a politician to get you money from the government. So to me, that's what we call rent seeking, which we are taught is a negative thing in economics.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
The question of coercion, the majority of workers, particularly low-wage workers in this society, face super exploitation every day on the job, all right? It is an uneven playing field. Markets are humanly constructed. The market that we have in this society is tilted to business, particularly big business, and particularly now the upper 1% of taxpayers, okay? So what we say at Unite here, the power that workers have to improve their wages and benefits, particularly workers, all right, who in terms of education, in terms of the background of their income, are not able to go to college, the power those workers have is to form a union, okay? And in Unite here, we say, indeed, the living wage is a human right, okay? If you look at the minimum wage, it was intended to be a living wage. The minimum wage is hardly a living wage, all right? It is a working poverty wage, we say. So, the living wage is a human right. That's what Franklin Roosevelt said in 1944, his Economic Bill of Rights. That's what Martin Luther King said in 1968, leading Memphis garbage workers for collective bargaining rights and living wage. Only when workers get the power to change the power relations within the labor market are their wages going to come up.
Do we have another question? Anyone?
Another question?
Oh, hang on just a second. Let's give someone else a chance. Okay.
Is there a labor center in Fulton also, in addition to the Graton Center? Because I just drove through Fulton this morning, and I noticed that there were far fewer people out there than usual.
The new supervisor, McGuire in Keelsburg, is talking with some folks about what can be done to establish something, possibly. If workers, if that's what they want to do, if that's the route they want to go. Similarly, with Petaluma, there's a group thinking about resurging that dialogue about creating a new center. But they're just dialoguing and really building the relationships with workers to see what the vision is that they want to create, what they want to see in Petaluma.
want to direct this one to the man who spoke about labor. What do you think about increasing, by forming labor unions, increasing real wage and increasing unemployment?
Does increasing the minimum wage lead to increasing unemployment?
Well,
Is that your question?
Yeah, workers at a higher wage it'll shift the labor demand down. And
Okay.
thus increasing.
I think I'm going to say one thing and then hand it off to Professor Kim. He mentioned David Card, and he is the economist who did all of the path-breaking work on minimum wage in the 1990s. And what that there is not a significant unemployment as a consequence of raising the minimum wage. And he looked at states like New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania in the early 90s when there were bump ups in the state minimum wage. Okay. That also, by the way, is the same for living wage ordinances. All right. There's no evidence that it leads to higher unemployment.
The minimum wage and living wage are not specialty, but what he said is correct. Actually, David Card, Professor Berkeley, he found that the increased minimum wage has no impact on the unemployment rate. That is true, but other than that, I have no comments on it.
Another question?
I was just wondering, why are the day laborers not part of the actual labor union? Is there a reason why they don't actually join the labor union?
Yeah, some are. Yeah, some are. At the beginning I said that there's an increase in the number of day laborers because they don't enjoy a relationship with a single employer, like many Californians. So there are folks that come over from the carpenters union, for example.
I just want to follow. This is very important, and often in the labor market, immigrant workers will move from day labor and potentially working with hopefully a worker center into hotels and hospitality. Okay, and for immigrant workers, ultimately, whether it's construction or the hotel, to move their wages to a living wage, it is going to necessitate that they become unionized over time. So our union and some of the construction trades are working with day labor centers to try to facilitate this change. And in the construction industry, there's a pretty high bar in terms of your English proficiency skills and other basic skills to get into apprenticeship programs. But once a worker is into an apprenticeship program in the construction trades, they're on their way to the middle class.
Why is such a big gap between the living wage and the wage in 2010?
I can say a little bit. Minimum wage laws or wage orders were set in place. If we could account for inflation, and if we were to change the minimum wage like we were supposed to do, it might be $15 an hour today. But there's been a lot of opposition. There is still a lot of opposition to increasing the minimum wage. That's politicians.
We have time for one more question.
Yes, I'd like to know what people, such as myself, college-educated professional, can do to help the labor movement and the attempts to organize. In other words, but I'm not an employer of people or in an organization that would employ people. But what can we do?
Did you say you're a professor? I'm sorry.
No, a professional. And I actually work in a nonprofit at the moment. I've been a teacher. But what can interested people such as we do to further the not just the day labor, but specifically
the mic.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to adjust the volume from here. You don't have to touch it.
I guess the first thing is you can support our Living Wage Coalition, and we have a website, www.livingwagesonoma.org. And our Living Wage Coalition was very much involved in the agreement in Petaluma Sheraton that led to organizing of the hotel workers. And most recently, we've been involved in the National Union of Healthcare Workers organizing Memorial Hospital in Santa Rosa. Because there are virtually no protections in the private sector for organizing, it's extremely important that community members become involved to bring pressure upon employers either to voluntarily agree to card check neutrality or to not interfere in the National Labor Relations Board elections if that's the direction that they go. And I'd say finally, what you see going on in Wisconsin and Ohio and the direct assault by Republican governors against collective bargaining rights, right? That is of utmost importance in terms of contributing to those unions, in terms of writing letters and so forth, whatever we can do to prevent that from happening elsewhere.
So I want to thank you all very much for coming. Please come back and join us again on the 26th for the American Theater over in Warner Auditorium at 8 p.m. 27 here at the